Welcome Stephen Trejo and Kim Daniel, Principal Stephen Trejo from C.E. Rose Elementary School in Tucson, Arizona. Welcome. I was wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about why you have such a strong team of educators at your school and what has influenced the development of the climate and culture among teachers at your school.
I think there's a lot of different reasons. One of the first reasons is that we worked on a vision together, and that vision is kind of our guiding light. And it's a very simple mission statement. It's Leap 90, but it has a lot of powerful meaning. And we developed that as a staff, so it's a shared mission. And I think when you have a shared mission and everybody buys into it and they had a part in it, that's the beginning place for a strong staff. And when I work with my teachers, it's not me calling the shots, because I consult with them on everything. I ask them, how would you do this? How would you do that? I consult with my support staff, with Kim, with Marcia, with different people on the support staff. And then I always go to the teachers and ask them what they think. What do you think about this? How can we approach this? And when they feel like they're part of the decision-making process, it makes for a much better team. And then it's interesting because there's this kind of feedback loop for me, that when I'll visit with certain team members that are kind of some of the natural leaders, and then they'll visit with their colleagues, and then they'll come back to me, or they'll come back to Kim, or they'll go to Marcia, which is our instructional coach, and they'll discuss it, and then they'll kind of come back to me. So we really, everybody's pretty solid when we make a decision that is going to impact them or their team. Also because we have really strong interdependent teams. When we have new teachers that come on board, they're not left to themselves. They come in, and because we all do the same. I mean, they lesson plan together. They see what's working and what's not working. They're always checking the data, to see how their students perform. Even on a chapter test, they'll check with each other and say, how did you do? How did you do? And they'll really check with each other. If one did better than the other, then they find out why, and they really talk to find out why. And I think it's just that whole thing that we all talk with each other. It's nobody's working by themselves. They're not closing the doors. It's always, it's teaming all over the entire school, whether it's the computer lab tech, librarian. We always are constantly talking with each other. And it's not something that takes a lot of time. It's just kind of like, I guess you could call it drive-by. We visit sometimes. I mean, sometimes we get into long collaborations, but generally speaking, it's just a daily thing that's just part of what the culture is at Rose.
I think one of the things I've noticed that has made the culture a very powerful place is Mr. Trejo is really good at identifying the strengths in people and putting teams together that work well together to start out with, and even identifying which grade level a person's personality fits the best. So pulling the best out of people is really a powerful thing that has happened at our school. I think another thing is the Leader in Me program. We've had that for a couple years, and having everyone have the same expectations of personal development before expecting something from somebody else has made it a very, very comfortable place to be.
Who runs the Leader in Me program?
It's school-wide, and it's...
That was another shared decision. It was a process. It took probably 4 months. We got a book called The Leader in Me, which is the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People for Children. We studied it. We studied schools that had gone through the process. We actually sent a team to another school in Florida, and I didn't go. In fact, I frankly didn't want to go because I didn't want to be influencing them. I wanted them to come back and really share without any of my persuasion. So they all went. They talked about it. We saw their strengths. We saw some downfalls, with the program, and so we really, we went through a big process, and there were people that weren't on board, but then people influence other people, and then it was a really good buy-in. And one thing that Kim said, actually, we had a really great experience this last year. We had a really strong first grade team, and I broke up the entire team. And I put one teacher in 4th grade, another teacher was our ELD coach, another teacher went to kindergarten, and we started a whole new team with another team of teachers that actually turned out to be better. And the teacher that we went from 1st to 4th, she was just the most amazing catalyst. And that's really where she needed to be. She just had the personality for 4th graders. And she just, she was the catalyst to even take that team to higher levels of achievement. And and there's a really strong team with our 4th and 5th grade teachers. And I shared with her, you need to be aware that, that you got to kind of work with this person because they've been there for years and they really are good what they do. And she was expert at it. She worked with them, and by the end of the year, she was part of the team leadership, and just the whole 2 grade levels, they worked so well together, and they flew. Our data just, spiked again, because of some of these relationships, and they just absolutely loved her.
Well, that kind of speaks to our next question. If a school wanted to achieve great results, like you've achieved at your school, what should they do to improve teaching? What are some practical things they can do?
One of the things that that's really important to our school and to myself is I walk through every classroom every day, no matter what. And sometimes I'll walk through the classrooms even twice. And it's not so much, at first I want everyone to know I'm there. There's just something about that. I've owned different businesses before I got into education, and I always would be aware of businesses. You could always tell the business when the owner wasn't there very often, and the businesses when the owner was there all the time. It just ran differently. And so I want all the students to know I'm there. I want all the staff to know I'm there. And not so much just because, and they don't even pay attention to me anymore. I just walk through the classroom. Sometimes I check in with students. I see what's on the walls. And you can walk into a classroom, you can see the climate and culture and the rigor and the 100% engagement, which we talk about a lot is 100% engagement. We've always talked about 100% engagement. And so I'm not doing long observations. I might be in there for 10 seconds. I might be in there for 5 minutes. But they're never long, and the teachers feel so comfortable with it, and we've been doing it for so long. And with this award this year, we've had just 2 and 3 visitors per week, groups of people visiting. And our students just kind of ignore big groups of people walking through unless we ask them, to do something. And then one thing that's really changed the academics to a higher level is every once in a while we bring these groups through, and the students have these things called data notebooks where they track all their own data. And so I'll ask, for example, one of the teachers, could you have all your students show their data notebooks to these folks, and they'll just all grab their data notebooks and they'll open them up and they'll just start talking. They'll say, this is my personal goal, this is my academic goal, these are my AIM scores, which is the state standards in Arizona. This is where I'm at, this is where I need to be, this is where I want to be, this is what I'm going to do. And then they have different graphs in their reading and math that they'll show that, this is where I'm at, this is the end of chapter test, and I've done this. Or they show them their Math Masters, data, or their Success Maker data, or their Waterford data, and they'll just go through the book. And usually I have to say, okay, we need to stop because the students get so into it, and we're not randomly picking, the top 10 students. She just says, who would like to share today? And they're all wanting to raise their hands because they want to share because they know their data and they want to share, especially with an adult that's interested. And the adults they're always just like, wow, these kids, because we're really looking for that intrinsic motivation.
I think another thing that we do well is the teachers collaborate. The teachers work together. Lesson plans are developed by the team, the grade level team, and as they work on the lesson plans, they only have to do one lesson plan every so many weeks, depending on the number of teachers, because the whole grade then is teaching the same thing. It looks different in different classrooms, but the objectives are the same, the expectations are the same. And they also at times will get together, develop the lesson plan early, get together and talk about how it's going to look in their class, why something might or might not work well with their students. So there's a lot of thinking involved in what they're going to do. Another foundation that I think we've done very well is making sure that the teachers totally understand the curriculum. Having a solid understanding of what they need to teach and tying it to the standards that are already established in Arizona, making sure that the students leave the grade level with everything they need to step into the next grade level.
In fact, the district this year has a district initiative. It's EEI, Essential Elements of Instruction. And it's interesting because when our teachers go to district staff developments, they talk a lot about student engagement. And they'll be discussing, and teachers from other schools, if I get 50, 60% student engagement, that's really good. And our teachers are just kind of like, we only go for 100% engagement, and we do it from Monday when they arrive until Friday when they leave school. In fact, there was an experience I mentioned in one of the other presentations, is that this last Friday was our last Friday of the school year, because our last day was Wednesday of this week. And I just did a walkthrough, and I did a walkthrough in the last hour of school on the last Friday. You would imagine that other things would be happening. Every single classroom the students were engaged academically in academic learning, except one classroom that had a pre-planned celebration, and then there are 3 classrooms outside waiting for the fire department to do a special presentation. But you know, Friday afternoon, that's not typical, and it hasn't always been that way, but that's just kind of the mindset, and they're always looking for 100% engagement. And with this EEI, they really want, now with knowing the curriculum, now they're even working on instruction, but we've always been doing, you know, many of the things that are part of the essential elements of instruction, so it's really nothing new. It's just something, you know, they're finding little pieces that we could do better.
You know, that speaks to the students that we interviewed from your school. To believe that they had a great chance to succeed academically, and they thought that learning was interesting and exciting. What have you done to influence how students feel about learning and their future?
Sure. I think it starts with the beginning when they start feeling successful the very first day they come to school. Our teachers have very high expectations for the students, and when the students start learning and realize that they can do it, it just starts that ball rolling. They do look at the data a lot. The kids are involved in looking at the data. So they know that they're making progress, which just motivates more desire to learn.
Another thing would be, you know, the Leader in Me program isn't so much, when someone hears about the Leader in Me program, they sometimes think that it's leading others, but it's really the leader in me. And one of our big quotes or mantras that the students know better than we do is, we are the leaders of our own learning. And so they really take that on themselves because they're looking at, and we set up catalysts so they can become the leaders of their own learning. For example, the data notebooks. See, that way they're looking at their own data, they're starting to own it, and we're not owning it. And if you ever talk to a teacher when a student owns their learning, or when the teacher owns their learning, it's a whole different climate and culture. And so it's happening throughout the whole school that all the students are becoming the leaders of their own learning. And we develop other programs like this Math Masters program, which is working on the basic math facts. And in the past we've done, like for example, 2 years ago, or last year, we had a program called Mastering Math Facts. And basically, you know, the teachers would give worksheets to the students, and they would do these quick, you know, 5-minute basic math facts tests. And then they would help each other, but it was teacher initiated. The teachers were giving them, and the students would work and they would time them. And now the Math Masters, all we do is that there's a celebration at the end of each month. We have a criteria, and since students understand looking at data and stuff, we have a criteria. For example, if you're a first grader, we expect them to do 100 addition, subtraction problems in 7 minutes or less. And so then they just work really hard. And they do it either before school, at their lunchtime, but there's no time at school taken any longer. We just have a celebration, and you know, and then we really, we had some trophies and had some things like that, and they just totally took off with what the students did. And everybody wants to be a math master, and then they want to be an ultimate math master, which means if they get, you know, for example, a third grade of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, if they can get all those in, I think it's 5 minutes, 100 problems in each, then they become an ultimate math master. And then they get to go to all the celebrations every month, and it's this intrinsic motivation instead of, and see, we're not managing the program anymore. They are managing themselves, so we're always looking for ways to inspire them. And the Leader in Me, that just, everything about the Leader in Me is what it works to, because if you can lead yourself first, then you can lead others. And that's starting to happen also as they're starting to lead themselves, and that's what the 7 Habits is all about. You lead yourself first, then you can actually lead others. And there's been a lot of articles written about student achievement, and you know, leadership is really where it's all at. You know, whether it's administration, teachers, and then the best is if the students become the leaders of their own learning, then you really have something that, you know, a lot of places don't have. Everything switches, and you know, teachers that are teaching students that are leaders of their own learning is way different than teachers teaching someone that isn't a leader of their own learning.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
I think one of the last things is there's a mindset that what we're doing is not just for today, it's really for the future. kindergarten teachers talk about, we're not preparing you for first grade, we're preparing you for college. And on one of our walls down towards the middle school area, there's a map of the United States. And
Big map.
Big map. And we put logos of all of or a couple different universities or colleges per state, so the kids can have a perspective that's bigger than Tucson, bigger than their neighborhood. And we talk about it and we help them see that they themselves are the ones that can make the choices to get where they want to go.
Wonderful.
And on that map, you've all heard of the quote by Benjamin, I think it's Benjamin Bloom, that says the students that have a vision of their own future are the ones that are going to basically go the furthest. And so this just helps them to have the vision of their own future, and that confidence that they feel every day being successful, and them tracking their own learning. They really are becoming unstoppable. We'd have to be really bad to get in their way now. And another thing is, on that map, there's two little quotes. It says, "Where are you going?" on one side of the map, and "How are you going to get there?" And then at the top, there's a quote that's in the book, The Leader in Me. It says, "The best way to predict your future is to create it."
Wonderful.